I want to zoom out and talk about a mega habit, which is the idea of an intentional calendar. You see, most people think they have very little control over their calendar, and I used to think that too. But that changed for me when I reached a breaking point where the busyness of my work was affecting my home life and my health. So that stressful period forced me to change my approach. And so I want to share with you what an intentional calendar looks like. Right? Here's an approximate view of my intentional calendar. This is what it looked like most of the time I was at Stripe for 5+ years. But I realized this is a lot to process. So I'm going to show you step by step how I built my intentional calendar. And one thing I want to let you know is please don't take any of this literally. Each of us has different working styles. Each of us works different hours. So don't just stop looking at this because you say, well, I don't want to work 40, 50 hours like Shreyas did, or I want to work 30 hours, or somebody else says I want to work 90 hours. It doesn't matter. The whole point of the intentional calendar is it's based on your intent. Now we're going to go really fast, so strap in, okay? First step is the morning routine, which I already told you about. Next, as you build your intentional calendar, very useful to recognize this, which is when you do the work is as important as how you do the work. So also schedule your work in addition to scheduling your meetings. And many of you have heard this, your calendar speaks greater truth than your to-do list. So here's how I like to schedule my work. Limit meetings so I can get long scheduled work blocks. At the end of the day, plan the next day. Fit the next day's tasks in calendar because it forces me to prioritize. And then lastly, plan the next week on Friday evening so that I go into the weekend with a clearer mind and I can be more present in whatever it is that I'm doing. So as we decide how to deal with meetings in our intentional calendar, we need to understand this simple idea. There are 3 types of meetings, which is the ones where the time is imposed on you. The second is where it's influenced by you. And the third is where the time is initiated by you. The meeting and the time is initiated by you. That brings me to this topic, which is all of us have imposed meetings in our calendars. So I try to schedule most of my O meetings and N meetings around those imposed meetings. So I can create these contiguous meeting blocks that you see. These are the gray blocks. Now, by the way, for those of you who are wondering what N and O and L, that's part of my L&O system, which says that there are 3 types of tasks that you can perform. L tasks are leverage tasks, N tasks are neutral tasks, and O tasks are overhead tasks. And the same idea applies to meetings too. So once I have a bunch of contiguous meeting slots, I add time for a break, like for email or Slack or other operational work, because this time my energy is low right after a bunch of meetings, so I can use a break. But if I don't need a break, I'll catch up on email or Slack or other operational tasks. So with that, you now start seeing how my intentional calendar is getting filled out for the next week, which is like now I have these contiguous blocks, I have the breaks. Now let's move on to deep work. So we are now going to add deep work blocks, right? One key part that makes deep work easy is a no meeting day, which we used to have at Stripe on Wednesdays. Anyway, whether or not you have no meeting days, look to see where you can schedule. And this is the most important part, is block off deep work time in your calendar. I do this for each week, depending on my schedule for each week and what meetings I have and where my contiguous meeting blocks are and so on. So this is kind of what my typical deep work time look like. Now this is 12 hours of deep work right here. And trust me, you can do a lot in 12 hours of deep work, but you can only do it if you don't get distracted during your deep work. So one key distraction is Slack and email. It's very hard to resist that red dot. So here's the solution: mute Slack and email. Because see, here's the thing. Many people say just close those tabs. But you can't close those tabs because as PMs, we need email to be open. Sometimes we need Slack to be open to do our work. So it's better to resist the temptation of the red dot by just muting.